I shared a dream I had many years ago where I had an exam to write, and in preparing for the exam, I got dressed in my uniform, drove to school with my brother to write the exam, got to the ground floor of the school and saw one of my classmates who approached me and said, "This exam you're about to write, you don't write it in your school uniform, you have to write it in your mufti." And I mentioned in that video that I was going to share how I interpreted or utilized that dream and what it spoke to in my next video. This is that next video. When I have dreams like this, there are usually 2 to 3 steps I take when I wake up and I remember the dream. One of the things I do is that I write down my dreams. So when I have a dream, whatever form it takes, a lot of times it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not sure what it's pointing to. One of the first things I do as soon as I have that dream is that I write it down. I write as many details as I can remember. And even if I don't have the time to write everything down, I usually write down, even if it's just a summary of what the dream was about, so that next time I see that summary, I'm able to flesh out the dream. Something else I would normally do when I have a dream like that is I pray about it. God speaks to us all the time, in the day, in the night, when we're sleeping, when we are awake. God is always reaching out to us. So when I have dreams, my first assumption is that God was trying to speak to me, even if the dream doesn't feel all nice and good and sweet. So sometimes when I have what looks like a dream that troubles me, because this exam dream actually troubled me. Then they used to trouble me, but now I don't get so troubled by exam dreams anymore because I have a bit of a hang on them. So even if I have a dream that troubled me, one of the first things I would do is assume that God is trying to speak to me. And then after writing it down, I pray. I pray with the hope of just trying to hear God speak and hear what he has to say or see what his response or reaction is, and whether interpretation comes or not, because I've come to understand that a lot of times the way God works with our dreams is not that he just gives you an interpretation on the spot. Sometimes he is just trying to have a journey or a continuous conversation with you. The end of a dream oftentimes isn't really interpretation. Interpretation is just one of the ends. You have a dream, you're able to interpret it, then you're able to utilize it. In some other cases, God doesn't interpret dreams to you. He just tells you, follow me or go about your day under the government of the Spirit of God or under the leadership of the Spirit of God. And somehow you will happen upon the interpretation of your dream. So don't get stuck in the loop of always wanting to get an interpretation. Just get what the Spirit is trying to say. If it's an interpretation, all well and good. If it's a leading to go about your life, all well and good. If it's a leading to take a particular action, all well and good. At the end of the day, whatever God was trying to speak to you about or whatever you saw, you will eventually just get the, if not interpretation, the fulfillment. After praying, the third thing I would normally do is think about the dream. So I would take out time, maybe during my day or as I go about my day, thinking about the dream. So I would often meditate on the details, what was being said here, what was going on here, what am I missing, what am I supposed to see, and all of that. I believe that this was the approach I used with the interpretation of this dream. So with this dream, I most likely wrote it down, prayed and thought about it because it's been more than 5 years now and I can still remember the dream clearly. But then after I prayed, one of the things the Lord just told me was that I had a denominational mindset. What that means was I was so comfortable with believers that looked like me, that talked like me, that acted like me, that behaved like me. It's like I had so grown up in a particular Christian denomination and become so used to just people from that denomination. So it became very difficult for me to do things or interact or feel fully comfortable with believers from other denomination. And this was not the will of God for me. And that's why I had that dream. How do I mean? The fact that I was being told this exam, we don't write it with our school uniform, was God trying to tell me that you're about to enter a new season. So sometimes when you see yourself in school, like secondary school, university, it's not necessarily speaking to backwardness or that you're being backward. Sometimes what it's saying is that you are in the school of the Spirit or you are in the school of life. So finding yourself in the situation whereby you're about to write an exam in school sometimes speaks to the fact that you are transitioning into another season. So it's like you're in an exam season, and if you pass well, you graduate into the next season. So what God was trying to tell me was that he was about to move me into a next season, or I had an opportunity to move into a next season, and the qualification for even taking part in what was going to bring that transition was that I had to let go of this idea of Christianity that looked uniform, that in Him there are so many expressions. It doesn't mean that there are no standards of how to do things as believers, but it's like we don't all look the same. We don't all have the same colors or have the same expressions. In Him, the colors are many, the expressions are many, but the fulcrum is still one thing. That's Jesus Christ. So He was just trying to let me know that if I was to make the best of this new season, I would have to let go of the mindset of sect and denomination and my church and people that look like me, because truth be told, I actually struggled to interact with people that did not feel like my people. And He was trying to correct that and say, let go of that. That was the way the Lord just broke down that dream for me in a very simple way. It's not the only way that you interpret dreams, because I can push further and say, hey, maybe the signs and the symbols in the dreams also point to something. For instance, when I was to go write the exam, I was driving a car with my brother. Both of us wore the same uniform. And the Lord was probably just trying to say, hey, you're driving a car is speaking to a journey, because sometimes when you see vehicles in dreams, it actually speaks to journeys, be it a bike, speed car, normal car, power bike, an airplane, a ship. All of these things speak to different things pertaining journeys. A lot of times, it may not be the only thing they speak to. Sometimes they can also be very literal. Dreams are a range of literal to symbolic, but so many times when they are quite symbolic, vehicles in dreams usually speak to journeys. There could be other things, but that's just an example. So I could also go with the fact that the dream I had, I was on the ground floor of the school, and maybe that was basic level of understanding the will of God. So it's like on the next floor, there is more. On another floor, there is more. So it's like this is ground level interaction. Like let go of the idea of sect and denomination and learn to interact with other believers and learn from them and work with them and do things with them. And to the glory of God, I was able to yield to what God was trying to tell me in that season, and it affected so many aspects of my life. Most of the people I began doing things with were still faith-driven people who were given to the will of God, but who were not from my church, or who were not like the kind of people I was used to dealing with and all that. I also would like to say that the fact that uniform in this dream spoke to denominationalism or sect does not mean that every dream where you see yourself in a school uniform means denominationalism or sect. Don't be quick to just say this meant this in this dream or in this person's dream, then it must mean this in mine. That's one of the things you have to avoid when interpreting dreams. Dreams are usually very contextual, and when you approach them that way, you would often not mix up your dreams. But when you just plug and play, you pick up meaning from one dream and say, this is what it means. Anytime you see yourself in school uniform, it means denominationalism. It may not always be the case. I hope that this has blessed you. If it has, leave a comment, tell a friend, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.